This is Rogue Wing, Coraline, or Helen RD over at Starship Modeler. Welcome to the workshop. Greetings. Okay, now that we've got the Odysseus build wrapped up, I've still got a couple of weeks before the start of the big screen contest over at Scale Model Addict, so I figured I'd try to get a relatively simple build done during that 2 weeks. I say relatively simple because the kit should be straightforward. We're working on the Iron Man 2 War Machine from Moebius Models. As you can see from the stuff scattered all over my bed, there are a lot of parts. Detail on them is fairly crisp. It's one of the shoulder guns. Not shoulder guns, that's one of the forearm guns actually. That's the minigun for his shoulder. Detail's a little soft. I'm not crazy that there's going to be a seam running right down the middle of 2 of the barrels, but that's the way they engineered the kit. That's the way I'm going to have to deal with it. Like with the Iron Man Mark VI, the arc reactor, eyes, and hand repulsors are molded in white and cast separately. There's also concrete style base just waiting to be primered and washed. Instructions are straightforward. I've gone through these a few times while working on the Odysseus. The instructions are straightforward, basically detailing out the sub-assemblies as you go. It's interesting that to get the clasped look of his left hand, you actually install the fingers separately. I'll be curious to see how well that actually fits together. But the thing I like about this one is, unlike the Iron Man, yeah, here we go, it's designed to be put together in sub-assemblies. You do all the major body assemblies separately and then combine them for the final model, which will make painting him a lot easier. As I said, I'm expecting this to be a fairly straightforward build. I'm expecting some seams, but you know, not that worried about it. We'll play her by ear and bring you folks along for the ride. Okay, no longer in review mode, in full build mode now on the War Machine. During my quick review of him, I should say, I guess this would be a very quick build. So far, he hasn't disappointed me. There's your first step. All 4 stages of it. Assembling the head. Only a little bit of seamage. And, you know, just some light sanding after I got it glued together. It's pretty much taking care of most of it. Touch this up real quick. Yep. Little quick sanding, taking care of most of the seam work. I'm going to go ahead and leave that little seam showing there, just because. In here, I have steps 2 and 3, namely the completion of the torso. There is a lot of piecework going into this. There's actually a central core of parts. There's 2 pieces, and then the 2 hip pieces glued over the top of that. And you put the the piece back here in, followed by the two side pieces here to hold the arms, and the back plate, and then the chest plate, which already had the arc reactor glued into place. Again, there aren't a lot of seams to talk about here. Most of the seams here, except down along the hip piece, actually followed armor panel lines. So that beefy chunk there is actually only about an hour's worth of work, and that's counting the little bit of sanding I did on it. Not too worried about the seam here, because this is actually a door that would hold the ex-wife, as Hammer called it. We'll all call it, those of us who've seen the movie will call it the dud. The head, that neck plug there, I'll need to sand on it a little, because it goes in here. And right now, it's a very tight fit. If I jam it all the way down in there, I'm probably not getting it back out. But I was looking for a quick build after the Odysseus, and I'm pretty sure I found one. At this rate, I'll easily be ready for paint by this weekend, unless something really drastic goes wrong. Okay, continuing work on the War Machine. I actually screwed up and skipped the arms without realizing it, so I'll have to go back and do them. But I have the legs complete. As you can see, you got some really nice detail in here. In fact, I don't know how well it'll show up on the camera, but they actually put in actuators, or what looked like actuators, for these flaps over the rocket boosters in the backs of his legs. Of course, this thing needs additional rocket boosters because this thing weighs a lot more than Tony's suit does. But both right and left legs are done. I've still got to do some seam touch-up work on the right leg. But as you can see, looking at the raw seam there, that's just from squeezing it together. I mean, I've just got to go in and touch it up now. Hit the other joins with a file. But that's where we're sitting. Okay. When I started working on this, I figured it'd be a fairly fast build. I started this Sunday. Today is Wednesday. And I have arms. One of the things I like about the way they engineered this kit is the arm brace pieces. They've got decent, not much in the way of seams to deal with. What I like about them is they're actually pegs running all the way through the arm to hold them together. They're not just glued to the outside of the arm. Like the detail on the gun. It's going to lend itself to weathering really well. Again, just minor seamage. This line here is supposed to be there. There's a deliberate groove there in the gun. Now, those of you looking to build this model, I'd like to warn you about one fiddly bit. The fiddly bit being the left hand. The right hand is your traditional 1/2, 2/2 done. The left hand, the fingers, in order to get this pseudo grip pose, are each individual pieces. And it took me a couple of tries to get them in there just right. But, as you can see, the arm went together fairly well. Again, just minimum sanding on the seams. Mostly a little bit of work on a sanding stick, and they're pretty much ready to go. Now, give me just a second. I'll show you how well engineered this kit actually is. That is Rhodey as he sits right now. I'd like to point out I have not glued the legs in. The head is pressure fit in. And with these huge pegs on the arms, I can just slide them into place. And he's looking pretty good. At this point, I've still got to build the only sub-assembly I really got left is the over-the-shoulder gun and the little missile launcher for his shoulder here. Missile launcher for his shoulder here is like 2 pieces, no biggie. Most of the Gatling gun, not a biggie. This is the part of the Gatling gun I'm not looking forward to. This is the ammo belt. It's like 7 pieces. And they've all got to go together just right or it won't link up between the gun and the slot that's on the back of Rhodey's shoulder. But at this rate, I should be ready for primer and paint by this weekend with a little luck. Like I said, the only real niggle I'm looking at right now would be the ammo belt. Stay tuned.